So I had a really interesting experience with looking at Google in relation to music production. So I searched is music production, and the one of the most popular searches wasn't the most popular. Most of them were to actually do with money and business and things, which I'm not qualified to talk about. Is music production difficult? And I think I'm very qualified to talk about if music production is hard or not. For starters, for clarity, because a lot of people watching this will be new, is that I'm not a professional music producer. I'm at most a semi-professional music producer. I've only been paid on one project. I've been producing music for 5 years, so clearly I'm not necessarily doing this for the money, if you will, or I'm not a business first kind of guy. So I'm not a good guy to come to for business advice or marketing or anything. But for actual theory, for difficulty and things like that, I think I'm okay. I think I can talk about that. I've been producing for 5 years. I produce ambient music, I produce chiptune music, and I sort of try to produce lo-fi kind of style music in the style of a video game, from the SNES or the Sega Mega Drive or the Genesis in the US. I try to sort of make things like that. So yeah, I think I'm fairly qualified. I don't make the type of music that a lot of producers make. A lot of the producers that I know of in the YouTube scene make things like hip hop or pop. I make more ambient stuff. There are some ambient people that I just haven't looked at. I don't really like looking up my own. I like looking up my own genre, but I don't like watching videos about my own genre because it's kind of, it's a bit boring to do the same thing over and over again. So I prefer to sort of broaden my horizons. But the point is, right? To stop rambling, I'm experienced in music production, but I'm not a business guy. So I can only answer the is music production hard thing. So I want to answer that just now. Yes, music production is difficult, especially in the beginning. Music production is a combination of the creative process and analytical thinking. So for example, the creative process is just, I have this in my head and I want to bring this out into reality. And analytical thinking is, how do I monitor the things in reality? How do I kind of bind reality to my will? How do I get from A to B? Creative thinking is more A, and I have to get to Z. I don't know how to yet. I have to do it for my analytical thinking. And every creative pursuit is like that, but music production is much more intense. It's similar to something like game development, because it's reliant on technology, whether it's a DAW such as Ableton or Pro Tools, or a mixing board or a microphone. It's all technology based, whereas something like writing or painting, less technology based. You can do digital painting, you can do digital writing, but you don't have to, whereas with music production you do. So there's a learning curve to the creative things, like for example, how do I make something sound like how I want it to? And that factors in the analytical things as well. What's the theory for why things sound the way they do? How do I get the program to do what I want it to do? There's a lot of learning involved, and the only advice that I can give to a music producer would be to sort of embrace the cringe of learning and producing for the first time, because you're never going to like or enjoy what you make when you first start making something. You're always going to look back at that and you're always going to go, oh no, I don't like it. And an example I want to give you is, here is the first song that I ever published. It's not the first song that I ever made, it's the first song that I ever published on SoundCloud, and let's take a listen.
I can't listen to more than 20 seconds, I'm sorry, I just can't.
So, as you can see, it's quite bad. Maybe not as bad to you as it is to me, but that's because I've seen years of improvement. Same thing is going to happen to you. You're going to look at your first track and say 2 months down the line, and you're going to hate it, because you're going to see 2 months of improvement, and it's going to get, and the gap is going to get much bigger. So you've got to embrace the cringe of realizing that you're not going to enjoy what you've worked on in the past. Sometimes you will, sometimes you'll make what you'd consider to be, your masterpiece or whatever. but most of the time you won't, and you'll look back and you'll only see what you want to change. You'll only see what you would have done differently now, which is good. You can use that for future productions. But the thing that I don't want you to do is to go into music production with the mindset that because it's hard, I'm going to fail. That's not necessarily the case. It depends what you want to do, of course. If you want to turn it into a business, you've got to factor in the business side and then the creative side, and which one is higher on that priority. The business, the creative, and the analytical. So what do I want to be better at? Do I want to be better at marketing myself, or do I want to be better at using the equipment, or do I want to be better at making very, very interesting music, right? Or expressing myself in in the best way that I can. It's quite difficult to know what you want to do if you want to do it a business style. If you want to create a music production business, if you want to create your own website and things and sell your music, very difficult. But if you just want to do music as a hobby to begin with, still difficult because you've got those two pillars to balance. And the best advice that I can give is just consume everything that you can. About music theory, if you're interested in that, or just get the basics of music theory is fine, usually, if you're just starting out. I'd actually advise getting less music theory as you're starting out, because the more theory you get, the more constrained you're naturally going to make yourself, because it doesn't fit with the rules. Whereas if you don't have music theory, you don't have as much music theory, you're not going to be as constrained, you're not going to be as boxed in naturally, and you're going to learn what works for you, what doesn't work for you more naturally. So yeah, I'd recommend getting basic music theory, to be honest, but that's your decision, not mine. Another point for the analytical side rather than the creative side for now would be watch everything that you can on your software, just to know how to use your software, because that's going to be the hardest thing. Your software is your canvas, your software is your book, right? Your software is your pen, if you will. It's how you're going to make things, how you're going to put stuff together, or your hardware if it's a mixer or a microphone. Just learn everything that you can about it. And once you've learned that, just put some of it into practice, right? I'd advise not learning an absolute metric ton. I'd advise not trying to get too advanced too quickly. Just take the basic things that you have and just try and make the best thing that you can with it and move on afterwards. Music production is very difficult, I'll admit, when it comes to starting out, because there's so many things you can go, there's so many things that you can choose to learn, and there's so many things that you can not choose to learn, and you've got producers that don't know much theory, you've got producers that know an insane amount of theory, and they've both gone far. So, if you're looking at your peers, or whatever you want to call it, you don't know where to go. The point is that you're going to find your own journey anyway, you're going to make your own path anyway. Learn what's most comfortable for you and just continue with what's most comfortable for you, and slowly just edge your way out of the comfort zone. Say, for example, if you're really good at the analytical stuff, you're really good at the software, you know how the software works inside and out, how about you limit yourself to only using the basics of the software, and you have to create an interesting piece of music, right? Or the opposite, you have to make a very basic piece of music if you're very good at the musical stuff and you're just a natural talented musician, or you really learned the music theory and you know how to make a good song or an interesting song. Try and go for something really basic, like 2 chords and like a 8-note melody or something, and see if you can make that interesting with things like effects and with things like automation and stuff like that. It's interesting because it comes down to finding what you're comfortable with and what you're not, and then how do you become comfortable with enough of all of the foundation, with enough of the analytical and enough of the creative to create your own sound, if you like. And you're going to have your own sound naturally to begin with. You're going to have your own style, because you're going to prefer slightly different musical things to everyone else, right? So, and every individual's the same in that way. So it's not that you can't produce music, it's not that you're a bad producer, or maybe you are, because I was when I first started, but the point is, it's not that you're a bad producer now, it's can I be a good producer in the future? And to do that, you have to do what I said, right? You have to slowly get out of your comfort zone, and you have to look at, where am I strong, where am I not strong, and how do I challenge myself enough to where it's fun, to where it's not boring, and how do I make some really interesting music that I like and that I enjoy making. So yeah, that's my ramble about music production. That's my ramble about, is music production difficult? If you enjoyed this, please give the video a like, but if you don't do that, I'd appreciate just a comment on what you think I can do better. What would you like to know about music production if you enjoyed how I talked about things. And yeah, thank you, and I hope you have a good day. Bye bye.